Scientists say humanity is getting smarter, but I'm not convinced. Not after discovering that some people genuinely ask Google whether their organs can fall out if they sneeze too hard. And that's not even the strangest part. Somewhere out there, a fully grown adult typed, with absolute confidence, "Can I cook chicken with hand sanitizer?" As if the FDA were moonlighting as their personal chef. These are the moments that make doctors stare into the middle distance and reconsider their career choices. And if you think that was the peak of online absurdity, oh no. You've only just brushed against the outer edge of the labyrinth. The real jaw-droppers are still ahead. 1. Someone once Googled, "Can I get pregnant from a public swimming pool, or does the chlorine kill the sperm?" And look, I get it. Science class was a long time ago, and Netflix hasn't released a documentary titled Sperm versus Pool Chemicals, Dawn of Justice. But the level of imagination here is impressive. This person didn't just fear pregnancy. They feared a highly motivated Olympic-level sperm that could outswim chlorine, lifeguards, and basic biology. Imagine the scene. You go for a refreshing dip and come out with a mortgage. The best part? Doctors actually had to explain that pregnancy doesn't work like a waterborne Wi-Fi signal. If it did, community pools would have Yelp reviews like, 5 stars, got pregnant instantly. 2. Then there's the masterpiece. If I eat mold, does it turn me into a mushroom? And honestly, if evolution worked that quickly, half of us would be houseplants by now. The person clearly imagined mold as some sort of career mentor. Congratulations, you're now fungi. Report to the forest immediately. Meanwhile, doctors had to keep a straight face and explain that mold doesn't rewrite your DNA like a Netflix body swap plot. At worst, you get stomach cramps. At best, you learn the valuable life lesson that expiration dates are not decorative artwork. Still, a part of me respects the optimism. Becoming a mushroom sounds less stressful than being a human. No taxes, no deadlines, just vibes and decomposing logs. 3. My personal favorite early entry. Can I drink hand sanitizer if I filter it through bread? The sheer confidence in this DIY chemistry is breathtaking. Somewhere, Walter White is screaming into a pillow. This person genuinely believed bread, the same substance that fails to survive being dropped butter side down, could magically remove toxins like a sponge with a PhD. Doctors had to remind them that filtration doesn't work like Hogwarts. Bread won't save you. Bread is barely saving itself. And imagine being the ER doctor hearing this story unfold. So you made a cocktail with Wonder Bread? The only miracle here is that the bread wasn't also toasted. 4. And then we hit the classic panic search. Is it normal if my heart beats faster when I run? Truly groundbreaking. Somewhere in a lab, a cardiologist weeps softly. This question is the medical equivalent of Googling, "Why does fire feel hot?" or "Why does food disappear when I eat it?" The human body, in a rare show of reliability, is doing exactly what it's supposed to do. And yet here we are. Doctors had to reassure this person that yes, the heart is not ornamental, it participates. It's not just scenery. If your heart slows down while running, that's the time to start Googling things, preferably the emergency number. 5. Another gem. If I swallow a seed, will a tree grow in my stomach? This fear has survived generations. Probably because the idea of waking up one morning as a botanical experiment is both terrifying and kind of poetic. But biology, unfortunately, isn't that whimsical. The stomach is not a greenhouse. It's more like a chemical burn pit designed to annihilate everything you hold dear, including romance and Taco Bell. The doctor answering this question probably had to resist the urge to say, "Yes, and you'll need sunlight, so please open your mouth for 12 hours a day." In reality, seeds do one thing in the stomach: give up. 6. Someone once typed, "Can I get radiation poisoning from Wi-Fi?" Ah yes, the deadly force that powers your Netflix binges and constant doom scrolling. If Wi-Fi were dangerous, half the planet would be glowing like a rave. People genuinely think their router is out here mutating cells like a Marvel villain, instead of just trying to load a recipe page with 89 pop-up ads. Doctors had to explain, gently, I imagine, that Wi-Fi doesn't even have the energy to push through a thick wall, let alone destroy your DNA. Honestly, the only radiation poisoning you're getting is from reading online comment sections. 7. Then there's the brave soul who searched, if I shave my cat, will it grow back stronger? Why does this sound like the origin story of a villain in a Pixar movie? This person clearly assumed fur operates by Dragon Ball rules. Shave the cat, and it returns with twice the power. Spoiler, no. Cats are not gym equipment, and hair regrowth isn't a training montage. The cat will not return shredded or emotionally evolved. The only thing that grows back stronger is your cat's hatred for you. Doctors told them the fur would grow back normally, but the trust? Never again. 8. Here's a philosophical one. Can I cook a steak with my laptop? To which the answer is, technically yes, if your goal is salmonella. This person clearly noticed how hot a laptop gets after 10 minutes of pretending to work and thought, perfect, kitchen appliance. There's probably an alternate universe where Gordon Ramsay gently places ribeye on a MacBook Air and whispers, stunning. But in this universe, laptops are for emails, not entrees. Doctors who saw this search could only conclude one thing: humanity is losing the battle against itself. 9. A user once Googled, "Can loud music break my bones?" I love this because it's both terrified and dramatic, like a Victorian child afraid of thunder. Sure, bass can rattle your soul, but unless you're standing inside a speaker at a Metallica concert, your skeleton remains unshattered. Doctors actually had to explain this because someone out there truly believed Drake could literally snap their femur. The worst that loud music can do is convince you, temporarily, that you can dance. That's the real danger. 10. Another classic. Will my blood boil if I drink something too hot? Look, I understand physics isn't everyone's strong suit, but your blood isn't sitting around waiting to become a pot of soup. The body has temperature controls. It's not a microwave. And even microwaves only explode when someone reheats leftover spaghetti incorrectly. Doctors get this question more often than you'd think, and each time they have to clarify that your immune system doesn't suddenly become a stovetop because you were impatient with your tea. If blood boiled that easily, Starbucks would have a legal department the size of the Pentagon. 11. And then someone asked, if I breathe through my mouth, do I lose oxygen? This one is magical because it suggests the human body has a preferred entrance and sulks if you use the wrong door. The truth is simple. If air goes in, you're good. The lungs don't care whether you inhale like a normal person or a confused goldfish. Doctors had to soothe this concern compassionately, but you know deep down they wanted to say, if you're breathing at all, we're counting this as a win. Mouth breathing may annoy everyone around you, but oxygen levels are not part of the problem. 12. Here's a masterpiece of chaotic curiosity. Can I get frostbite from eating ice cream too fast? This question tells me someone experienced brain freeze and immediately assumed they were witnessing their own demise. To be fair, brain freeze does feel like your skull is trying to unsubscribe from life. But frostbite requires cold, plus time, plus terrible decision-making, not a single enthusiastic bite of mint chocolate chip. Doctors had to explain that frostbite won't set in just because you went feral on a frozen dairy product. Though dignity loss? That's immediate. 13. Someone once sincerely Googled, if I stop blinking, will my eyes fall out? That's right, fall. Out. As if eyeballs are just barely rented and can exit the premises at any moment. The truth is, your eyes are attached, physically, medically, quite convincingly. They don't evacuate like disgruntled employees. Doctors had the joy of explaining that while not blinking will dry your eyes, it will not turn you into an unplugged Mr. Potato Head. Imagine blinking being the only thing keeping your eyes inside your skull. We'd all be living in constant terror during allergy season. 14. Next we have, can microwave radiation escape and cook my brain? What a beautiful mix of paranoia and misunderstanding. Microwaves are metal boxes specifically designed to not turn your head into a hot pocket. If microwave radiation could leak freely, every leftover lasagna would double as a weapon. Doctors had to explain, politely I hope, that unless you're actively licking the microwave door, you're safe. The real danger is forgetting your food inside and discovering it fossilized 3 days later. 15. And finally for this stretch, can my bones melt if I stand too close to the oven? A stunning example of someone who definitely skipped the chapter on melting points. Your bones do not melt at 425 degrees. They barely notice. If bones melted at kitchen temperatures, half the population would liquefy during holiday baking. Doctors had to reassure this person that ovens aren't secret lava dispensers. The only thing that melts near an oven is your will to cook after waiting 40 minutes for preheating. The bones are fine, your patience is not. 16. Someone once Googled, "If I hold a sneeze in, can my brain explode?" And the sincerity behind that question is breathtaking. As if the human skull were just a loosely screwed-on jar lid, waiting to pop off like an overshaken soda. The person clearly imagined sneezing as a kind of biological hand grenade, and themselves as the unlucky intern stuck holding it. Doctors had to explain that while holding in a sneeze is a bad idea, it doesn't result in spontaneous cranial detonation. Imagine being that doctor. No, your brain will not spray across the room like confetti at a gender reveal party gone wrong. Honestly, I wish this idea were true. At least then people would finally respect allergy season as the apocalyptic threat they insist it is. 17. Then we have the rich philosophical inquiry. Can I get food poisoning from smelling expired yogurt? Not eating it, not tasting it, smelling it. Someone believed stinky dairy could leap into their system like an airborne assassin. I appreciate the paranoia. Dairy products are dramatic. But unless your nose is also a digestive tract, you're safe. Doctors had to calmly explain that sniffing suspicious yogurt is not how pathogens enter the bloodstream, and the real danger is that you kept yogurt long enough to develop a personality. But I get it. We all have that one item in the fridge that becomes a moral dilemma. This person just elevated that dilemma to a biological horror film, starring themselves as the victim of yogurt-based terrorism. 18. A personal favorite. If I drink too much water, can I drown inside my body? This one is great because it treats hydration like a home invasion. The person basically imagined water sneaking into their organs and staging a quiet coup. Sure, water intoxication is a real thing, but the phrasing, "drown inside my body," takes it to a Shakespearean level of drama. Doctors had to resist saying, "If you drown inside your body, congratulations, you've invented a new disease." The human body absorbs water. It doesn't stage a pool party in your lungs unless things have already gone very, very wrong. Still, the mental image is incredible. Some guy chugging a gallon of water and then whispering, "Oh no, it's rising." 19. And then someone genuinely typed, "Can my phone read my thoughts?" Which tells you everything you need to know about modern paranoia. People really believe their phones, devices that freeze when you open 2 apps at once, are secretly decoding brainwaves like a Bond villain. Doctors had to step in because the person feared their private thoughts were being uploaded to the cloud. Imagine explaining that the same phone that autocorrects thanks to thongs isn't capable of telepathy. If phones could read minds, tech support calls would be much shorter. Instead, we're stuck with people blaming psychic smartphones while ignoring the dozens of apps they voluntarily gave microphone access to. Irony. Undefeated. 20. Someone asked, "If I look at the sun through my phone's camera, can it burn my eyes through the screen?" Which is beautifully stupid. They basically imagined the phone as a magnifying glass of doom. Doctors had to explain that the sun does not beam ultraviolet death rays through smartphone glass like a sniper rifle. The real danger is blinding yourself by taking 18 attempts at the perfect lens flare selfie. But I applaud the creativity. This person trusted their phone so little that they believed it might betray them to the sun. Honestly, the phone probably would if it meant boosting engagement. 21. Next is the timeless classic. Can I get sick from sleeping next to someone who's thinking about being sick? Not coughing, not contagious, thinking. The sheer respect for telepathic disease transmission is almost admirable. Doctors had to explain that thoughts do not produce pathogens, because apparently this wasn't obvious. Imagine if illnesses worked that way. You'd wake up every Monday with the flu just from thinking about work. The person genuinely believed sickness could travel by vibes alone. And honestly, if that were true, 2020 would have ended humanity through collective anxiety alone. 22. A genuinely fearful person once Googled, "Can touching a book give me an STD?" And I hope they're doing better now. Not emotionally, I mean just statistically, hopefully. Doctors had to go through the painful process of explaining that sexually transmitted infections are not lurking between the pages of The Great Gatsby, waiting to pounce when you get to chapter 3. Imagine believing the public library is basically a biohazard zone. Meanwhile, everyone who actually needs to use protection seems aggressively uninterested. The irony writes itself. 23. Another user typed, "Can hair get addicted to shampoo?" And the commitment to this metaphor is powerful. They believed their hair, strands of dead keratin, could develop cravings like a stressed-out raccoon behind a 7-Eleven. Doctors had to clarify that hair doesn't have a personality, emotions, or a substance abuse problem. But I love the idea of someone trying to wean their bangs off shampoo like it's nicotine patches. Stay strong, buddy, one day at a time. If your hair seems dependent on shampoo, congratulations, you've discovered cleanliness. 24. Then there's the question, can I gain weight from looking at cake? Which was clearly written during a moment of panic-induced clarity. Look, I get it. Sometimes you do look at cheesecake and suddenly feel heavier. Emotionally, spiritually, financially, sure. Physically? No. Doctors had to explain that calories do not teleport into your bloodstream through the power of pastry appreciation. If simply observing dessert caused weight gain, half of Instagram would be a medical emergency. The only thing that expands when you look at cake is your willingness to abandon your diet. 25. Someone asked, if I scream loud enough, can I break my ribs? And the mental image is glorious. This person imagined their body structured like a haunted house. Too much noise and the support beams just give out. Doctors had to explain that vocal cords are not connected to rib stability, and you're not going to shatter bones by performing an emotional opera solo in your living room. Unless you're screaming while doing something actually dangerous, like sneezing with your whole body or trying CrossFit, your ribs are safe. Still, I appreciate the drama. That's Broadway-level self-harm imagination. 26. One user genuinely wondered, can I get carbon monoxide poisoning from my electric toothbrush? And honestly, this is the most suspicious anyone has ever been toward personal hygiene. Electric toothbrushes spin. They do not combust. They do not emit fumes. They do not transform your bathroom into a Victorian gas chamber. Doctors had to kindly explain that unless your toothbrush is secretly powered by a diesel engine, you're fine. If anything, you're in more danger from whatever you were doing before you discovered toothbrushes. 27. Someone asked, can chewing too fast give me a concussion? And I want to personally shake their hand because this is a level of fear-based creativity I didn't know humans possessed. They imagined chewing as an internal car crash. Doctors had to clarify that your jaw is not causing internal earthquakes capable of knocking you unconscious. The only real concussion risk during mealtime is choking on your food because you were laughing at something stupid online. Ironically, probably while reading other questions like this one. 28. Next we have, can my veins get tangled if I sleep weird? This one is wonderfully imaginative. They pictured their circulatory system like a set of earbuds in a pocket. Wake up twisted wrong and suddenly your arteries are in a sailor's knot. Doctors had to explain that veins are not loose wires rearranging themselves while you dream. If your blood vessels could tangle, humanity would not have survived long enough to invent search engines. But I get it. Sleeping wrong does ruin your entire day, so why not your vascular system too? 29. Then there's the Google classic. If I dye my hair too many times, can it change my fingerprints? The person clearly believed their body operates on one shared identity system, like a bad video game. Doctors had to explain that fingerprints are not linked to hairstyles, which is a sentence no medical professional should ever have to say. But imagine the possibilities if it were true. Criminals everywhere racing to the salon to outrun forensics. The world would be chaos, but salons would make a fortune. Sadly, science refuses to be this entertaining. 30. A nervous soul once asked, can I get diabetes from thinking about sugar? And honestly, this is the most respectful anyone has ever been to dessert. They believe sugar could spiritually bypass the bloodstream. Doctors had to explain that thoughts, while powerful, do not summon metabolic disorders. If they did, every fitness influencer would be hospitalized from thinking about cheat meals. But there's charm in the question, as if the universe might punish you for craving a cupcake. If only diseases worked this morally. They don't. They really, really don't. 31. And finally, someone Googled, if a doctor touches me, can they accidentally transfer someone else's symptoms into me? which is both absurd and kind of sweet, like they believe doctors are out here carrying loose symptoms in their pockets. Doctors had to reassure them that medical professionals are not USB drives installing illnesses by proximity. If symptoms were transferable by touch, every doctor would be a walking encyclopedia of misery. Instead, they just look like they are, because they read questions like this every day. And with that, humanity proves once again, the limit to human ignorance is not measurable. It refreshes itself every time someone opens a browser. And that, my friends, is the grand tour of humanity's search history. A digital landfill of panic, confusion, and the occasional Olympic-level stupidity. If you've ever wondered how far the human brain can sink, congratulations. You've just looked straight into the abyss, and the abyss Googled back. Now tell me in the comments which moment broke your faith in humanity, or drop the weirdest question you've ever seen someone ask online. Go on, make me fear the internet even more. And if you somehow enjoyed this chaos, hit like, subscribe, and prepare yourself, because the next batch of madness is already loading.